Hello and welcome to the Run As Well podcast with me, Rick Pearson.
And me, Ben Hobson.
Today we're speaking with Minreet Kaur about her new running club that's getting South Asian women running.
Fantastic.
Yeah. She's a very dynamic, interesting person, so it'll be a good interview. But it's an interesting conversation because it's about South Asian women. We probably haven't talked enough about that demographic really on the podcast or in the mag, but it's something that Minreet's extremely passionate about, and some of the things she's going to talk about, the kind of challenges facing people in that community when it comes to running, I think are really interesting. So it'd be good to chat to her.
Yeah, definitely. Great journalist too.
A writer too.
So yeah, very much looking forward to speaking to Minreet.
Your own running, Ben? What's going on?
It's been a whirlwind, Rick. It's been an absolute whirlwind. I've been doing some more travel with work, which has been good. I feel a bit bad, actually. So previous episode, a few weeks back maybe when this one comes out, was with the Green Runners. And that really sort of like stoked the fire of environmentalism in me. And then within 48 hours, I was on a plane twice. So it goes to show what can and should and isn't done in terms of the day-to-day life. And yeah, it made me think like, you know what, should I be doing this journey for this bit of news from a running brand? And I have been out and about, so some new product, and I've been doing a bit of running. So yeah, it's been good, but my running's been fine, mate. You know, the build up to the big half, our podcast journey to the big half, has begun. Got the kettlebells and the weights in the garden the other day, and did some exercises that made everything hurt for a few days. So it's just the usual sort of stuff. Runner does weights and is in pain for a few days. So I feel like I'm progressing quickly.
Excellent. Well, I think we've got Minreet on the line. Minreet, can you hear us at all?
I can.
Great. Thanks very much for coming on the Run As Well podcast. Really interested to talk to you about your new running club and also some of the challenges that are facing South Asian women when it comes to running. So can we talk about your own journey into running then? Because I know you're not a kind of lifelong runner, are you?
No, I'm a runner that started in her 40s, much later in life. So when I was at school, I think I was one of the fastest in the 100 meters race. I mean, I think if you remember that, the egg and spoon race and everything else that we did, I loved it then. And then after that, I just kind of stopped and didn't really enjoy it. But I would have to run because my dad is a Skipping Sikh and he very much loves running. So, I would go along to all these events, but I just hated running. And I think the last time I really did a run, and that was not even something I wanted to do, or I didn't even train for it, was a half a marathon with my dad back in 2018, which was just before the pandemic. But I do remember I was really gasping for breath. And I think that was my last run where I thought, this is just not for me. I just never enjoyed it. And then obviously the pandemic came along, and there was like the only thing we could really do was exercise from home or go for a run. But again, I didn't start running in the pandemic. And then I think when we went through that first year, so in 2021, so last year, I think for me, it was just, I was a member at the gym, and when things opened back up, I went back to the gym, and there was a friend of mine there, Bob, who was 73 at the time, and he's so fit and so active, and he was talking to me in the sauna and saying I'd gone for a run, and I was just asking him about his running, and I don't know, I just had this voice in my head say, well, why don't I just ask if I can go for a run with him? And I did. And he said, yeah, come along. I think I'd seen him on Tuesday. He said, come along on Friday. We'll go for a run. And that was it. Literally last year in November. So in a cold, it was quite cold in winter. I joined him for that first run. I think that first run, so this is the other funny thing, that first run was about 11k. So I literally done no running. And I just thought, I'll just give it a go, thinking, yeah, I'll be fine. Yeah. And oh my gosh, Bob was like running 100 meters probably ahead of me. Yeah, he smashed it and he wasn't even out of breath. And I was just, oh God, I struggled. And I thought, I can't show him that I'm really struggling. He's like, are you okay? He kept checking up on me in the run. And I said, yeah, I'm fine. And that was it. Then we started running 3 times a week together. And then from there, because obviously being from the South Asian community, I started sharing my posts online. And I had lots of women who had all of a sudden were like, can we come running with you? And I thought, oh, there must be a problem. Like there must be this gap there where women from the community, just like me, just don't enjoy it, don't really know much about it, don't want to do it on their own. And that was how it started. Then a friend of mine joined me, Anita, who again, she said, I never thought I could do 10K. Then I had another friend of mine from the gym, Shano. She said, oh, I can't run. She joined us on a 5K. And then it's just grown. Like, it's very much an informal club, and it's an open club where I just say to people, look, I'm running. Do you want to come along? And so we just called it the Running Sisters Club. So it was a case of age is nothing but a number, but we're all just running sisters from the South Asian community. And that's how it started. And it's growing gradually, but it's very much not a planned run. It's just whenever we're all free.
I like that a lot. The moment it becomes like a very official club thing, it maybe adds a bit more pressure. And if you're trying to enter into these things, as a new runner, you can kind of feel a bit intimidated by organisation. So,
yeah.
When you talk to these other women and you're on your run, and sort of the things that you all discuss about how things that might have been barriers to getting into running, what are the main sort of issues when it comes to getting out and running for women in the South Asian community?
I mean, I think the biggest thing, which is for all of us women, is this, the whole thing of the Sarah Everard, and the other lady that was running, I think, early hours of the morning. And I think, that's the biggest thing. That has always been the biggest thing for me, where I didn't really feel comfortable running on my own. And if I ever did run, say I live not very far from Heathrow, so if I was ever to run, it would be along the Bath Road. And I just used to get so distracted by people horning at you, and you just see like men staring at you, and it's just really off-putting. So I think a lot of women, first of all, for South Asian women, firstly, it's wearing, the gym gear. We already don't feel very comfortable wearing that in a gym, where people feel they just don't feel comfortable. It's this thing of like body, they feel quite conscious about their body image. The other thing is just really, it's not a cultural thing that women in the community have done, because women very much will go for a walk. They just think they cannot run, or they find it, I think very much paranoid that if they are running, people are going to be staring at them and they don't feel comfortable. And then there's this whole thing of where in the South Asian community, we don't really have many role models, and the role models we do have are all men. So it's the men that are out there running. We don't really see anyone from the South Asian community as women. In fact, I think on Twitter, I think it's only myself and one other lady who do share lots of stuff around running, but we don't really know of anyone else. So I think people just feel, they can't do it. They don't want to do it on their own. That's the other thing. They need that kind of push and encouragement. A lot of women, what I've found from my community, don't really want to go out alone. They want to go with somebody so that they can have a bit of a chat and a bit of that encouragement. And exercise is not something that's very much encouraged in the South Asian community, especially not running. I mean, we don't have any kind of clubs where we say, look, we're looking to get more of our women to running. Or I'm the one who's really started this, just to say to people that, look, come and join me for a run. Or if you're going on a park run in your area, then I'll come to you. I just think, women just don't take running seriously, something they don't really enjoy. And I think people find it really hard. They think it's really hard. And it's funny, because I think this is all the stuff that I really kind of thought. And now I love running. I feel addicted to running. And if I haven't run, it's literally like, you feel like you haven't really had a bath, like something's missing. When you've got a routine and you have something and you love doing something every day. And it's one of those things where I just think, I really miss it if I'm not running. And I think that's what I'm trying to work at, is getting women to feel to see what it feels like for them when they run, and to then slowly see, okay, if we build a community and do it together, then it's a bit more easier. But yeah, I think most definitely women just feel it's not for them. They can't do it. They need to be with somebody to run. It's just, I think they feel people are going to run much faster than them, or I don't want to be left behind, And culturally, just about wearing the clothes that you wear, and, feeling a bit like, oh, people are going to start horning, or they're going to, that kind of stuff, it puts people off.
Other than the kind of the physical benefits of regular running, which are fairly well known, what else do you think running can provide people? Like, why do you think actually running is a good thing for people to get involved in?
I think the community, really, that fact it has a community feel, and you can make lots of friends and meet lots of people, and it's very good for networking. So I find, for example, with the park run, that's a free event. You meet so many different people from all walks of life. So for those that maybe are feeling a bit lonely, or you just want to get away from maybe even their family, like so many people, because COVID has changed things so much that, sometimes people are just looking for that companionship or friendship. you meet so many people then. You meet such lovely people. So I think it's just good for your mental health and your well-being that you are building a network of friends, people that you can hang out with other than running, people that are doing other activities. So I think it's a very good social thing to run actually, and also a time to kind of in a way switch off and listen to your music if you want to. Like it's your time, but it could be your time with your friends.
You've mentioned parkrun and meeting people, so I think I'd be amiss to not mention your article in the Independent. And for anyone who hasn't read it, it sort of centers around deleting dating apps and finding love at parkrun. And sort of it's a lovely. We've talked a lot about parkrun and how it's brought together families and changed people's lives for the better and all this sort of stuff. And I was just kind of what spurred you on to sort of write that piece, and why particularly parkrun?
Yeah, so the reason why I wrote that piece is because I had gone through a divorce a long time ago, and I think I've been single now for about 14 years, and it's been very hard to meet someone. I've met lots of people, but just people that you want to find somebody you connect with, and you've got things in common. Obviously, it's good to be doing different things, but one thing I think for me is very important is exercise. And I love running. And I think that's what it was. I had started then going to the park run, and I just saw the community feel there, how many people you meet, and met lots of really lovely people who are friends of mine. And I think it was just that vibe that the park run has. And I think that's why, for me, I thought, actually, this is a really good place. Rather than looking on dating apps where you know nothing about someone, if you're at an event and you meet somebody there, firstly, you can get to talk to them in a very natural environment, in the sense of it's organic. You're just having a chat, and it could be about your PB, it could be about you, how you got into running, it could just be about how you are, what they're up to on the weekend. But it's very much a natural way to speak to somebody. Whereas on dating apps, I think it's quite hard because you have to, first of all, you're looking at that photo, you're looking at their profile, and then you've got to start, you're making that talking to each other. That can I just think it's such a faff. You got to go through these steps and process, and then you don't even know if that person is really that person.
Yeah, of course.
You hear so many horror stories. And I think I've never been an online dating person, even though I understand lots of people have met people and they're very happy. It's just some things are just not for certain people, and they're not for me. So I was pushing myself to register, and every time I did, and every time I went on to them, I would come off straight away. And I just realised now, when I'd started the park run, and I've got into running and fitness and all the other things that I am doing, actually, you can join these clubs and you can meet such a world of lovely people who are doing all different things. Fitness is just one of those things, but actually, it's nice just to be able to meet someone organically. And I think for me, I've always wanted to meet somebody very much in a natural way. And like they say, you should what is it when they say you should, I don't know, my mind's gone completely blank now. When they say you should visualize and you should put it out there, what is it called? Is it the law of attraction?
Yeah, law of attraction.
That's
isn't
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, the law of attraction. So I've had lots of people say to me, all right, you need to write down clearly what you want. And I thought, actually, that's a really good idea. Lots of people do that. They write what they really want, they read it out to themselves, and lots of things have happened for them. And they say about the law of attraction. And I thought, because I'm all over the place, I do lots of things. Maybe that's what it is. I've never really been focused about what I'm really looking for. And I realized that the one thing I definitely do want is to meet somebody, organically, whether that's at a park run, which would be great, or through another running club. So, I think that's why I felt like I needed to write it, because I felt that I need to write down what I felt in an article. And then it was something I could reflect on. And then going forward, that's what I need to really do. That is exactly what I'm going to stick to. I'm not going to go back on these dating apps.
I love that, and I think a bit of a shared interest in relationship, and I think hopefully a lot of people listen to this, their partners will be runners, and they may have met through running, or it might be something that they kind of got into together. It makes everything so much easier, I think. But at least someone to understand the appeal of running. I think that's a lovely thing to have it in a relationship, if you can have it. What else other than, obviously the Running Sisters Club is great, but it's possibly not. It's not the one solution itself. But more needs to be done, doesn't it, to encourage South Asian women to run? What else do you think needs to be done to make running seem like it's something for them?
Yeah, I definitely think more needs to be done, and I think it's really a similar thing to say, like we have the park run, which is for everyone. But I think what we need to do is have more community events taking place. So within the community, for example, so me being from the Sikh community, maybe we need to do more in the place of worship, like the Gurdwara, which have got grounds outside, and maybe get people to come along and have like a fun run. So, at the end of it, you get a prize. but just bringing people in, and they can bring their children. So that's the other thing. You can make it like a family focus, and you come along with your children, and then you run and your children run. But I think the work needs to really be done within the community, where we need to have make it accessible for them, make it feel safe for them, not to feel like some women don't really feel comfortable running in front of men. So maybe having more of these women's clubs, and just kind of bringing them in slowly and making them feel a bit more comfortable, and then encouraging them around the whole maybe education around running. Well, why is it good for you? Because that's the other thing. I think I've never really, I mean, apart from the fact that you lose weight, I guess that is one thing actually. I don't see it as much, or maybe I'm not looking into it as much. What are the benefits of running would be really good. I think maybe to kind of drum into people a bit more, because I never actually realised that when I put a stone of weight on, I was obviously in the pandemic. I mean, I wasn't doing lots of exercise, but I did some skipping, walking, and I realised I couldn't shift it. But what was funny was when I started running, I did actually, I've lost a lot of weight. And a lot of people say, oh, you do lose weight from running. And I'm like, really? I thought it was really bad, because that's the other thing. Lots of people think running is so bad for your knees. And I know lots of people have had problems with their knees, but I do think sometimes that, oh, it's bad for your knees, really puts people off, because I think that's what put me off. So even that, a bit of education around, okay, yeah, it could be problematic for your knees if you are doing this and you're not doing this. But actually, if you're doing a gentle jog, I think that's the thing. Education around running in itself would be so good to know. Well, what is it good for? What do you have to be careful of? And I think maybe that would help people to take it on more, because I always do hear from people, oh, I used to run, but then my knees were, and I think that's what put me off. And I thought, oh no, I don't want my knees to go.
100% agree. We did a piece actually. Was it 10 most Googled running questions? It's an old episode, and I'd say about 50% of those top questions are kind of suspicious questions about running, like, is it bad for my knees? Will I drop dead on the run? That kind of stuff. It has this suspicion around it, running, and actually as an activity, I'm biased, but I'm saying it's almost the best, undoubtedly the best physical activity that you can do for yourself. And the benefits are myriad. They're so wide ranging. But yeah, there's so much suspicion around running, and you're right, it puts people off, because like, oh, I don't want to ruin my knees.
I think it's what you touched upon as well. It's hard. Running is hard. Like when you first start running, and not just as a beginner, but if you've been injured and you come back to it, or you've had time away, it's not one of those things that sort of is easy again very quickly. And I think that's another thing about it, is that it's hard, and you've got to kind of like really knuckle down, and feel like you know what, this is going to be hard, but it doesn't mean I should stop. I just got to recognize that it's hard, and then once you get into it and it becomes habitual, and then you're suddenly like, and as you said, now I have to go running, because it's just part and parcel of like my day-to-day kind of being. It's just the education around it. But yeah, I think it's got slight sort of, it's a bit of a stigma with running sometimes.
Yeah, I think so. You mentioned your dad, the Skipping Sikh, at the start, and we'd love to sort of hear a bit more. So can you tell us, why, how he acquired that nickname?
So I take the credit for that. I did. I named him Skipping Sikh. So what happened was, when we went into the pandemic, into lockdown, my parents are very active, and my mum still works. So I remember my mum saying, so my mum works at the airport, and I remember my mum saying to me, and as a freelance journalist, actually, I was watching the news. I was at Channel 4 doing some work experience, and I said to my mum, the airport is going to close down. And she said, no, it's definitely not. That has never happened. I said, trust me. I said, the airport is going to close. We are going to go into a lockdown. She's like, no, that's not going to happen. And she was like, oh my God, I don't know if that happens. I don't know what I'm going to do, because they're very active. I said, gyms are going to close, and the airport. And they're the two things my mum loves. She's very active. My dad obviously is not a gym member, but his thing is the allotment, and he goes to the Gurdwara, the place of worship. So I knew that even the Gurdwara, they will close to the public. And so I just thought, oh, it's going to be really hard, because my parents are very active, and they're not people who really sit at home. They're very different to the norm of some of the Punjabi community who love their food. And my mum and dad are very controlled in the food they eat, and they love their exercise. So they're not going to enjoy this sitting in front of the TV and not being able to do what they enjoy. So when we went into lockdown, I remember within, I think, a week, I think it was, I had just woke up one morning, and I had, obviously in that week, I'd seen lots of people doing things around the push-up challenge. And I just thought, oh, we see this every time. I find the push-up challenge so boring, and not everybody can do that. It's quite hard. And so I thought, well, we've got a skipping rope. And we literally, at the time, we only had one skipping rope. And it's one rope that my dad has, because my dad's the person that skips the most. I've never really been a big skipper either. So I thought, well, let's start the skipping challenge. And it was a nice day then, because I remember we had really lovely weather then. So I said to my dad, let's go to the allotment and let's start the skipping challenge. You're going to skip, I'm going to film you, and then Mum's going to skip next, and then I'll do it. And let's get people to start skipping, because it gives them something to do. You're bringing back something that people don't really do much anymore. It's only really taught in schools, but there are adults who can skip. And maybe during this time, this could help them, because you can buy a skipping rope online, and that's some form of exercise they can do. So I filmed my dad, and I shared the video on Twitter that evening. And I remember it being a Monday, because I was on my journalism course at the time. I should have been paying attention on my course. Instead, I kept looking at Twitter, and I didn't have that many followers at the time. And the video was retweeted, reshared, and it just went crazy. People say about a viral video, I never experienced that until I shared my dad's video. And oh my gosh, it's just... you are glued. I was glued to my phone thinking, first it's 1,000, 2,000, it went up to 75,000 views.
Wow.
And shares and retweets and likes. And so then I shared that story with somebody at Sky News. And that's because I'd done some work experience there as well, just before we went into lockdown. And I just thought I'll just send it on WhatsApp, and, who knows. And the editor said, oh, I love this story. We're going to put it out tomorrow. And so then they did. They shared it, and then obviously it got more traction. And then my dad started doing all these other exercises. So you've got I think it's the bar where people like push themselves up and kind of go the chin up bar or whatever it is.
Yeah.
We've got that at home. And my dad was like, shall I show you this exercise? And I was so scared, because I thought, oh God, I've heard some really scary stories where the bar has dropped. Anyway, he did that, and then that went viral. And then he picked up some tires, and these were all ideas, apart from the bar, they're all ideas that I thought, I'll just get my dad to do. And anyway, so the name Skipping Sikh came because the video went viral, and I thought, well, let's just name him the Skipping Sikh. He's then been known for that, but actually his exercises go beyond skipping. So, he was lifting the tire, he had some water cans, he was picking them up. And the idea for him was that there are things in your garden, or there's things at home that you can use to stay active in this time. And that, it just literally, the story just went everywhere. And he was on Good Morning Britain, on the BBC, in CNN. It was a worldwide story.
Yeah. And he ran the marathon?
Yes, and then he did his first full marathon. So then I thought, let me sign him up for the marathon. And I thought, let me surprise him, because he's always wanted to do it. And so I did, and he got a place. And I think he was just in shock, because he just looked at me thinking, how am I going to do that?
What have you signed me up for?
Yeah, he's like, do you want to see your dad like alive or what? And I thought, oh God, I feel really bad. And then I thought, but I was like, you've always wanted to do it. I think it just took that time. I think what it was, I think it just shocked him a bit, because my dad's always wanted to do the London Marathon. Every time he's applied, he's never been successful. So I think it was this thing of, I can't imagine if I was like my dad and I'm a keen runner, that actually if somebody said to me, look, I've signed you up for the London Marathon and I've always wanted to do it, you would be completely shocked. So he was very much, and then it took a bit of time for him to kind of digest it. But the thing is, he never trained. That's the other thing. He did it in 6 hours, 52 minutes. And that was because he was skipping as well as running. And that was a good enough time. He never trained for he's never trained for any marathon, which I find really bizarre, because I don't think I'm doing the full London Marathon this year with him, and I'm doing half, and I could never not train for the full. I'd have to do something.
Of course, most people, I think most would.
Yeah,
exactly.
But he never did.
Yeah.
And he came out at the end, and he just looked, everyone was like, he just looks fresh as a daisy.
It's amazing.
Amazing. What a great story. story. If people want to find out more about Running Sisters, Minreet, where can they go to do so?
Yes, so they can go to I do everything on social media. Twitter's probably the best place, so MinCaur5, and Instagram, actually, Minreet Kaur, because there I post between the two, and they can get in touch with me, and then I'm more than happy to just let them know when we're running, create a WhatsApp group, and I put it on there, and then they can come along if they're free.
Great. Thanks so much for making the time to speak with us on the Runners World podcast. Great to hear more about Running Sisters and of course the Skipping Sikh as well. Great story there. And thanks very, very much for your time.
Thank you so much for having me.
So that brings us to the end of this week's Runners World podcast. A huge thanks to our guest, Minreet Kaur, and to you, of course, for listening.
You can subscribe to the Runners World podcast. You're listening to it right now, so just have a little nosy around in your app, find the little button that says subscribe, make sure you tap on it if you haven't done so already. I'm assuming you have because you're listening. You can also subscribe to the magazine. That's a great thing to do. There's 12 issues a year. It's not many magazines that do that anymore. So subscribe to that. Head over to the internet and search Runners World UK subscription. And pay your monies, get your magazine. And then that's it. Visit the website, runnersworld.com/UK. Absorb some running information, feel good about yourself, go for a run. It's all upbeat, great stuff.